What time is it? It's nation time.
Greetings, Bishop Dejanava. How are you?
Great. Happy New Year, brother.
Happy New Year to you as well. I enjoyed checking out your presentation. Show some signs. That brought a lot of things to mind, uh, particularly a gospel song, but I know it's so much richer than that song. Some things that I found that you touched on that were exciting to hear being presented in this way, of course, was the idea of oppression, but emphasis on the psychological oppression, which we seems to evade us oftentimes, and references to a slave mentality, a conditioned self, and the need for personal transformation were some of the themes that, for me, were exciting to hear you address. And I particularly like the reference and use of the nation of Israel in captivity in Egypt and their time in the wilderness, as like a metaphor or an analogy for African people in the African diaspora post the transatlantic slave trade and enslavement. So, I mean, I appreciate that. Can you maybe say a little more?
Well, one of the things that really strikes a chord with me is the fact that we sometimes diminish our ability. We don't give ourselves credit for the stamina and the perseverance and the resilience that we have over the centuries exhibited. You know, we can do way more if we have a mind to do way more. You know, I think that Marcus Garvey said, whatever the mind can conceive, we can achieve. And I think sometimes we fall prey to the negativity and the narratives that paint us as being less than able to rise to the occasions. And sometimes we defeat ourselves because we don't have enough confidence in ourselves and our ability to overcome those kind of situations. But it's been part of a system of oppression that's been inflicted upon us from one generation to the next, where we've been repeatedly told that we're unable to, or that we're not qualified enough, or that any advancement we make is because we've been given an unfair advantage, you know, like the elimination of DEI and equal opportunity, where we've never had an equal opportunity. We were brought here as captives. We weren't brought here on an equal footing. They told us to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps, and we didn't even have a pair of boots. We had to, anything we've done, we've had to do it against almost unsurmountable odds. But we've risen to that occasion when we overcame that fear that we were not able or capable of doing things for ourselves.
Indeed, and of course, the key figure in the story, particularly reference to the nation of Israel coming out of Egypt and all that, is Moses, and you lay out how Moses was given signs, or signs were being presented to him, even though he maybe did not want to see them, but they were guiding him towards his mission. So I can't.
Yeah, the whole burning bush experience.
Okay.
Where he said, because we all know in practical terms, if you see a bush on fire, it's going to burn up. But it was a experience that he was having. These were inner experiences he was having. If somebody else had been in that same situation, they may not have seen a bush in turmoil. But when he was having those exchanges or conversations with God, this was an inner struggle that he was faced with. You know, many times we may have been put in situations where we had to make a difficult decision. And before we make that decision, we second guess ourselves. We say, can I really do it? I know this needs to be done, but can I really do it? And sometimes we have to fight with ourselves to overcome those doubts or insecurities that we may feel, because something in our past may have given us the idea that we were not really capable of doing those things that we had set in our mind to do. I know when my first teaching position, When I went to the classroom, I had already graduated from college. I had my degree, I had my background, but when I was in front of the students, doubt crept in. Like, can I really do this? Am I capable? And one of the things that, I learned long ago, just open your mouth and start talking. Once you make that first step, the rest will come. But so many times we find ourselves longing for areas of comfort. It's hard for us to get out of that comfort zone. We want to be safe. And when you're trying to do something, especially when you're trying to go against an evil system, you're not going to be on firm footing all the time. Sometimes you have to go with the flow. But as long as you have that foundation there to help you.
You just made a reference to Moses dealing with an internal struggle within himself. And these signs that we talk about, or that you mentioned in the presentation, makes me think about how when something is rumbling inside of us, or we're having these emotional experiences internally, rarely do we ever think that it could be God or the Spirit telling us to do something. And I think that's because we're orientated. We don't even think about God in that way.
We don't think we're connected, that we have a connection with not just, we talk about the power of God, but with the spirits of our ancestors. But when we saw years ago that policeman, I don't even want to call his name, put his knee on George Floyd's neck, and we were watching that for that period of time, there was a rage building in everybody who saw it. There was a feeling of divine discontent. Like, how could this happen? How could we let this go? And it was a rage that built up. That was the same kind of rage that Nat Turner felt, that Denmark Vesey felt, that Harriet Tubman felt, that we can't allow this injustice to be perpetuated for any longer. And there was something that we needed to do. We didn't know what we had to do, but we know we had to do something. But that same spirit, we call it in the shrine, the revolutionary Holy Spirit that's born anew in each generation, that doesn't allow us to sit idly by while injustices are taking place, that we have to respond in some kind of way. It doesn't mean that we want to go into blind rage, but we have to move and act to make purposeful change for ourselves. When they say that they want to ban books in the school and don't want to teach Black history, we can teach history to our children ourselves. We have the ability, we have educators, we have people who are very capable of teaching our history. We don't have to wait on somebody else to do it for us. So we don't have to look at that and say, oh, woe is me, and shrink in fear because they are enacting these different dictates or executive orders. We just respond the way we need to respond to make sure that we're building a community that's working for our own well-being.
Yes, that term you referenced, or that experience, the revolutionary spirit of God being born anew, also makes me think about the term righteous indignation, which is a spirit within us that does what you said, compels us to take action. And as an educator, what has driven my teaching and why I teach, you made references to slave mentality and the conditioned self and the psychological damage that slavery, Jim Crow, and all these things have done to us, and the need for personal transformation. And I've tried that is what's driven me to teach these things. But for some reason, we just can't seem to grasp the idea that we need to change ourselves.
Well, we can't change what other people do, but we can change how we respond to the things that happen in our lives. One of the things that, our presiding bishop, Jeremiah Kamathi, teaches us is that there's a source from which everything emerges. Some people call it God, some people may say Allah, some people may say Buddha, but we know that there's a creative source that's the source of all being, and we are expressions of God, and that our divine purpose is to be as powerful and as authentic as we can be. Our purpose has become the dreams and visions that have been etched into our being. We are called to strive every day to be our best and highest selves for as long as we live. And we can't allow negative narratives to stop us from achieving that goal.
But how do we, you near the end of the sermon, you emphasize the importance of one's best self, being our best selves or becoming our best selves. And when I think about that, I think about people on Instagram with a bunch of physical, symbols of power and riches and gold. But I think you mean something different. So
I mean, in terms of our community, we need to build a community. Like, I know that have experienced a great loss when we got a lot of sisters and brothers who've lost their federal positions, jobs, but those skills, those talent that they have, those can't be taken away from them. They still are highly qualified. And if we can just use that intellect, use those skills to build a community that could benefit ourselves, we would be leaps and bounds ahead of where we are. We don't have to depend upon a system that is designed to destroy us to promote us, because we know that's not the purpose. So we have to build our own counter system that will give us the ability to achieve institutional power, that we can put together our own networks. That means we got to work collaboratively with other groups of people who are like-minded and want to do the same things that we're doing, because we're not the only ones who feel this way. Other people who are looking for an outlet or looking for people who say that we can do something better for ourselves.
Institutional power reminds me of another point you made about liberation and the idea, and I'm paraphrasing, that it's beyond just getting free. Something to that effect.
Oh, yes.
Say.
Yeah, I was saying that, yeah.
Let me just, what comes with obtaining freedom, which we kind of see the nation of Israel en route to that, is the responsibility of sustaining it. But go ahead. Sorry.
Yes, right. Because it's not just being free from something, but it's the freedom to become what you are meant to become. So we have the freedom not just to be free from oppression or from the physical bondage, but free to build, free to develop, free to thrive, free to teach each other and to support one another and to build a society that can benefit us. So it's not just being free from something, but free to do and develop and to thrive, not just survive, but to thrive and to become all that we were intended to be. And we don't even know what that is, because as we become our best selves, each day we can get better and better. So when 2026 came, I said, here's another opportunity for us to move forward, but we got to show some sign. That means we can't just talk. We got to do the walk.
All right. Thank you for the powerful sermon and this inspirational conversation. I'm going to leave it there. You close it out. Show some signs. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
What time is it? It's nation time.